Here we go.
Hey, everybody.
We're
Welcome.
live? Oh my gosh.
Welcome
No
to
pressure.
Deep Cuts, your nightly.
This didn't get weird at all.
You know how they do those
Honestly?
ASMR videos where they like,
Oh, I hate those so much.
yeah.
Ooh,
Oh my
really?
gosh. It feels like someone has climbed into my ear and is just like,
Scratching your skull from the inside.
yeah, I don't like it.
I get that.
Sounds are meant to be heard at ambient temperatures.
Temperatures.
Oh my gosh.
Not
This
that we're
is-
Formula One fans.
It is great. It is dreary. I have not slept well in like 5 days. I'm
Bless.
like already a little cuckoo bananas right now. I think people are gonna have a great time with this.
Enjoy this live, everybody. This is for you. Today,
really is.
not sponsored by, but repping the Williams because Alex Albon, you king. We're so excited for you. Truly. I think the world banded together in excitement for Alex Albon. If you were upset for Alex Albon yesterday, you're the problem.
No, he just had such a phenomenal day. But I will say, during the race yesterday, at some point he was having a moment or whatever, and they put a graphic up, and I don't know what the white balance was, but he looked like a flippin' albino. Like,
Albano?
Albano.
yeah, that was a thought I had. I was
That's
like, what is
amazing.
going on?
How has that not been a meme already? I don't understand.
It-
How has that not been a meme?
Well, yeah, it was kind of one of those images that, like the Facetune images that everybody has. And I guess I hadn't seen his yet, but the version that popped up was just not properly white balanced. It was
Yeah.
like real pasty.
Yeah. Yesterday's Canadian Grand Prix, which honestly felt like it was a week ago, but yesterday's Canadian Grand Prix felt like the Matrix a little bit, but also like nobody was who we're used to them being, except for Max. But even still, the gap from like the rest of the field to Max, I felt like was so much shorter or so much smaller than it normally is. But like when Toto did his little moment, I was like, nobody is who they're supposed to be right now.
Oh, it's very true. But like Max also had a bird in
Yes.
his brake duct.
Yes.
So by that token, I'm kind of like, okay, he was not going as full throttle as he could have been.
True.
But also the Aston Martin, Fernando and his pit wall were basically saying like, yeah, there were a couple things that weren't quite right, which like fair. No free practice sessions were useful or good this weekend. They were just like,
True.
I don't know what to call those, but they were
They were just
bit
wet.
of a they were a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
So I feel like this race actually gave us absolutely no idea of how anyone is performing comparatively to each other because it was just nothing made sense this weekend. It
No,
did feel like a
nobody
fever
was who
dream.
they were supposed to be. Ferrari actually made the right strategy call. Like nobody was
Yeah.
who they were supposed to be.
Just
It was. We loved to see it though.
Absolutely.
We did.
So
love
you're
to see
making
it.
a case for only one practice session, if at all.
I
Are
mean,
you saying there should only be one practice?
I mean,
session?
I think that was part of the whole sprint weekend format is that it reduces the number of practice sessions and it just gets right to the racing. So you've got to dial in. Like we're always talking about ways to, there's that debate about should we try and hamper Red Bull so that they aren't so far ahead or whatever, and silly things like that. How do we get the field closer together? Well, why not give them less time to dial it in and just say, all right, you get to this track, you get 1 hour to drive around, figure out your setup and race.
I think because in my mind, because it's not just about the car setup, a lot of the time they're also tuning in updates and upgrades and things like that. So I do agree that it's just about finding a balance of how do you give them enough time to make sure that they're sending out something that actually works, and also how do you make it so that way it's not giving them too much time, so that way there's not that element of did you get it right, like it is a weird balance. I would be super down for them doing like alternate weekends kind of a thing, of some weekends similarly to how you have sprint weekends, some weekends are a bit more testing oriented and then others are a bit more like tight scheduled. So not
'cause then that
necessarily
would-
having
yeah.
a sprint schedule, but have that extra long practice session of at those typical tracks where teams bring upgrades because it is representative, because it's a good layout for them to get data at.
Yeah. I was gonna say it would regulate when everybody brings in their updates and everything too. So I'm on board. I think that's a good plan. Can we talk for a second about the national anthem because it was beautiful. I was like, I am being serenaded in the heavens. It was so beautiful. I feel like I experienced it for all three of us. It was so beautiful.
Good.
Which version did they sing? Did they
Both.
sing French?
They did it French and then they did it in English. And I said,
okay,
this is culture.
Well, I will say there's actually a version that has both languages.
Then I think
all
it was
wrapped up
probably that
into
version.
one.
It must have been that one because I don't think she sang it
to
twice.
French to English.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's just the
we
standard
had Oh
version.
Canada, and then we went French, and then we finished in English.
God
I
save
said,
the land, glorious
this
and
is-
free.
Yeah, that was in French, but it was it was beautiful. Homegirl was all over it.
Yeah. No, it's a pretty good song. I like it.
I know. It's so pretty. I said to my husband, because we were in the car, we were driving back and we we didn't miss it because we pulled it up in the car, but the first 10 minutes before and then the first 5 minutes of the race, which is honestly when you really need to be watching. We were watching from the car. And when she started singing, or when she finished, I said to my husband, this is a much prettier, not prettier. It's a very pretty national anthem and it is easier to sing than the American national anthem.
Oh,
What are we talking about today? For
we're
the
not-
permission
aren't-
We're
we're
not
not
doing
doing that
that
yet.
Are we not doing that yet?
We're
What's
live
happening?
stream.
What's happening?
So we're live on YouTube right now,
Oh, okay.
giving our reaction to the race, and then we're
and
going to
then
end
we
our
go
live
into
stream.
recording.
and
I
then-
thought we were live streaming, recording everything. And we were like, everybody, here's an inside access to the chaos that happens behind the scenes every time we film a podcast. We're not doing that.
No,
Okay,
No.
good deal. Well,
this is getting the race out of our system so that we can focus on the format that you previously
Okay.
alluded to.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. Well, what else happened? I mean, what didn't happen? But also Logan
Yeah.
Sargent. R.I.P. my man.
What did
We're
happen?
sad for you.
Just lap 10.
Yeah,
Just
R.I.P.
gone.
I know. I feel for him.
I mean, I feel for him, but at the same time, if a car's retired as a driver, I would much prefer it to not be my fault
True.
and to just have it be like, well, that's unfortunate,
True.
but it wasn't me.
It wasn't me. To quote Shaq.
Exactly.
Yes. And speaking of cars that had to retire, George was out here making the comeback of all comebacks, and then they were like, "Yeah, bring it in." I'm like, oh
Just-
no.
I was really shocked that they kept that car out there. You're just looking
Yeah.
at it, you're looking at the impact, you're looking at the stuff
Yeah.
that's on there on the tarmac and not tarmac, pavement,
Yeah.
track. I don't know,
On
on
the
that
asphalt, if you will.
thing, the flat, and it's just some of those pieces are probably important, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you guys want to be lightweight. You don't put any unnecessary things on your car.
Right.
That's
Because
a
it's
lot
not
of
like he
bits and
brushed it
bobs.
on a corner. So, he hit it from the front and hit it from the back. It was
That
double
was
rebound.
that was a full smack. That wasn't a little.
Yes. No.
know?
It wasn't Lance's little moment that he had on the inters. I think it was in
Yeah.
qualifying where he brushed the,
Yeah.
which also, that is the luckiest spin out I've ever seen in all of my time watching Formula One. The fact that he almost barely brushed the wall, but then otherwise hit nothing and spun twice, truly remarkable.
It's the magic.
It is, but also would have loved to have seen a better result from him this weekend with it being his home race. That was kind of sad.
It was just kind of depressing, but it's also kind of just where I expect him to be at this point because he has been underperforming at the end of the day. And I do think, quite frankly, that part of it might just be that his hands aren't actually okay.
Okay, I've been wondering. We haven't heard any update on his hands, and I'm like, surely someone doesn't recover from surgery that quickly.
Honestly, it would not surprise me in the least if because he went back, he is now just having, like, he's not back at 100% for longer than if he had just taken that 1 or 2 races off.
Yeah.
Like, there's always a price to pay.
Yeah.
And at the end, like, the number of physiotherapists, the number of surgeons that just, like, constantly, in my lifetime of getting banged up, bruised, the clicks, snap, crackle, and pop, as I like to call it. And their biggest message is always, don't go back too soon because you are going to hurt it more. And then there's no going back and you're just going to be screwed forever and ever. And, you know, not speaking from personal experience of being screwed forever and ever, but I wouldn't surprise me if that's what happened to Lance now, is that he can't.
Yeah.
And he was already a solid midfield driver. And now he's mid-back-ish, a lot more than he should be, especially in that car.
Which begs the question, is his seat in jeopardy? Because I feel like now that the Aston Martin car is so competitive, it's the question I think everybody's been like asking but not asking. Because he's been a staple in the sport so long as his dad has been owning a team. And you ask the question, if he's not going to be performing, are they going to bring in someone else? Cough, cough, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Charles Leclerc, question mark?
Potentially. They also have Drugovich as their junior driver.
They do. But did you guys see the conspiracy rumor that Charles Leclerc only follows like teams that he's driven for, but then he followed Aston Martin?
Aston Martin.
That's the only basis I have in which to support my Charles Leclerc and wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, yes, but Charles Leclerc is also the kind of guy that would accidentally follow an account and not realize he's accidentally followed an account until somebody mentions it like 2-3 days later.
Yeah,
honestly,
valid point.
Would not surprise me if he was just creeping on their page and accidentally tapped it and didn't recognize that.
Honestly, so true. Or that like Daniel Ricciardo grabbed his phone and was like, let's spice things up a little bit.
Yeah.
Expect Ricardo to spend more time trying to get Alonso's phone so that he can slide into Taylor Swift's DMs, screenshot that, and get that out on the Twitter sphere.
He honestly, he could mess up so many things in the best way.
Oh, yeah.
Did either of you watch any of his telecast with Will Arnett?
It's not available in Canada.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it either. Why is it not available in Canada? That's so dumb. The race was in Canada.
It's available on ESPN, and we don't have ESPN. We have TSN.
Boo. Come on.
That's part of America.
Canada.
America
Your
is trying.
anthem is so great. Make your sports broadcast great, too.
Honestly.
Will Arnett's Canadian.
Yeah, that too.
He should have lobbied for that, yeah.
Yeah, it's great disappointment in my life, but you know.
So sorry.
We live with it.
Surely it's out there somewhere. Well, and also we had a trio of champions on the podium at the end of the day. That made my heart so happy. I just felt like it was just this happy brotherhood up there on the podium. Although the cool down room footage was a little dry for my taste.
Honestly,
like, nobody's saying anything.
What do you want him to say? You want him to get argue about things?
We get some Max explaining. We get Max in there and he's like talking and jiving and talking about this turn and talking about this moment, and no one kind of said anything to anyone. And then once they started talking, they moved the broadcast. I was like, they just started talking.
They were talking.
Why are we moving?
What I saw, they were talking the whole time, and it was mainly Hamilton being civil. Anytime I see Hamilton and him in the same room, I think everyone expects it to be kind of awkward and silent and weird, as if like 2021 is always looming over. And it looked like there was a concerted effort on Hamilton's part to engage in civil discussion about the race and not have any weirdness. You know, you're the rear end of your car is like he's very complimentary and, you know, complimenting Verstappen's rear end. Mm-hmm. And then
Alonso came in and I saw that part, but that was like towards the end. There was like a solid 30 seconds of just silence at the beginning where you were just like, what's happening? I think they've moved on. I honestly do, because like for the sake of everyone's mental health, I think moving on is the best course of action, because dwelling on it doesn't change anything. You just
Yeah.
move on and be better. Period.
Did you guys see some guy went to the, I guess some kind of museum or display at the FIA headquarters in Paris, and all these world champions like helmets and race suits and gloves are all over the lobby or this little museum thing, and Hamilton's gear is nowhere.
What?
Yes. Now,
Do they have Maxes?
yes.
Interesting.
Oh, they have WEC. They've got all these different FIA champions everywhere.
That's
They have
wrong.
2 different Alonso pieces of gear on display and stuff, and they don't have Hamilton's. Now, the reaction that most people are having is the reaction you're having, Caroline.
Yes, that's
My-
so upsetting.
Well, here's the thing. My reaction is, it would not shock me in the least if Hamilton had his
Pulled it.
stuff removed after
Yeah.
2021. Been like, nope, take my stuff out of there. I don't want you having my stuff on display, as a sort of protest to the FIA. If I were him, that would have been my low key sort of thing. That it wouldn't have got a lot of publicity, but the FIA headquarters, they would have noticed when that helmet was missing or that race suit wasn't there anymore.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking.
So did he
What?
heist his way? Did he like dun 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 take all of his stuff back, and then they don't talk about it because it's embarrassing that someone stole it from the museum?
There's just
That
one
would be a
candid-
funny like multiverse.
I want to see the security footage of just Roscoe
Yeah.
running in, grabbing a pair of gloves and running out.
Roscoe.
They send in Roscoe. That's amazing. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Did you guys? Sorry to bring it back to the Canadian Grand Prix. What were our thoughts on the Ferrari call where Carlos was like, "I have better pace," and then they had to keep telling Charles like 5 times, "Carlos is not going to challenge you. He's not going to fight with you." I was like, why did they feel the need to keep telling him?
Because their pit wall's kind of a mess. I take everything that they do with a grain of salt, honestly. Of just like, you guys you do things, and I don't expect them to ever
do
make
things.
sense. Like, you're technically there, you're technically doing a job, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I rarely think about. I was talking to some people yesterday about this actually, and it's another podcast actually, and they do like a good part and a bad part of the race, and somebody said like the Ferrari strategist being the bad part, and somebody else was just like, you mean how they normally are? And it's
LOL.
like, yeah, like it doesn't faze me when they do something stupid or silly or that seems nonsensical, because that's just what they're always doing. That's kind of the standard, is that we don't know why.
We don't question it. We just feel the pain.
Pretty much.
How did we feel about Lando's unsportsmanlike behavior penalty? Which I was like, I don't think I've ever seen that penalty pop up before.
Well, it's basically, so they went and they gave it to him because they did recognize, okay, this is a behavior we want to discourage, but there isn't a standard regulation inside Formula One's sporting code that would allow them to penalize that. So they had to go to the FIA general sporting code that governs all of the FIA sanctioned
Oh, wow.
series, and then say, okay, this is what we can pull from to discourage this behavior. So it wouldn't surprise me if in the next sporting code Formula One update, we got one saying,
Yeah.
hey, if you go too slow, you're also behaving in an unpredictable manner, and we're going to penalize you because that's also unsafe.
The fact that they had to dig so deep to find a reasoning for a penalty, I feel like, I don't know. There's a part of me that feels a little torn on that, because I feel like there were times when Max in the past has behaved in a way that skirts the rules like that.
That was shocking. Did either of you read the result from Nico Hulkenberg's red
3 place grid
flag.
penalty.
Yeah.
I did not.
It's basically someone saying hello from the country of Greece
Hey,
By the way.
I want to come to Greece.
with the blue rooftops and the white buildings.
Yes.
Yes.
Santorini, right? That's in Santorini.
But anyway, in the document I read, it basically Gunther Steiner said that he crossed the line before the red flag came out, 2 seconds before the red flag. It had to do with the fact that his delta time, when the red flag went off, he was already too far ahead on his delta time to be able to slow down in time without getting a penalty. So even though he did nothing wrong, the computers read it as wrong, and therefore he had to get penalized.
That's so dumb.
Yeah.
That's a human should be able to override what the computer decides.
Yes.
That's-
And you can consciously make the choice to not give the penalty in that moment. Like,
Potentially not. Because while the majority of penalties, I'd have to look it up, but there's a clean split pretty much between the penalties that are if the stewards feel like it at their judgment, however they want, but there are some that it's like you do this and you get a penalty. And there isn't a clause basically saying that the stewards can override those automatic ones, which you would think that they would put that in of kind of just
You
like
would.
under the right circumstances, the stewards can exert their judgment and not award these automatic penalties.
Seriously.
But it's, again, the sporting code is vague and very open to interpretation, which good and bad, as we've
Yeah.
previously discussed on so many occasions, because
Many.
it keeps coming up.
it's the truth. It's the truth because sometimes you can have like the human element that decides whether or not something happens, and then other times they're like, hands are tied. Sorry, rules are rules, and you're like, well, it seems very convenient for your opinions sometimes to not have the rules be the rules. But anyways, that's how we feel about that.
true.
What about the incredible call during qualifying to put Alex Albon on
Like-
the slicks? I was so scared when they first put him on the slicks, and then as it developed, I was like, "Oh my gosh, James Vowles, you genius!"
It was one of those just rain whispering type of moments. Like, and it surprises me to a certain extent that it was Williams, because they've openly admitted, like, we don't have half the stuff that these other teams have. So it really just makes me wonder, was it feedback from Albon that made them go, okay, yes, we're going to switch? Was it just like, I would really love to know what was it that they noticed that made them pull the trigger, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That none of the other teams had. Because the other teams, I'm going to assume that they had more information, more
Yeah.
data, because that seems to be the way it goes when it comes comparatively.
Yeah,
Williams to the rest of them.
yeah, it's about who has the data. Yeah. Well, am I missing anything? What else happened? The almost overtake, the almost like Herculean overtake that Lando had there at the end, and then it was just sad.
Yeah. Or, okay, can we just like pour another one out for Pierre Gasly and just
Oh my
like,
gosh.
how, like, I feel like he's just had so much bad luck, not just this weekend, but like overall this season.
Yeah.
It feels like there's just so much of like, wow.
He and Logan should start a club.
Ugh. Well, yeah, like during the race yesterday, he pitted right the lap before there was a virtual safety car.
Pain. Pure
And
pain.
then he pitted again in between the safety cars, I believe.
Yep. Yep.
Like
After
twice
the
missed
qualifying
it.
from hell for him, like honestly.
That was just so painful to watch.
Oh.
Of just oh my god.
Yeah, it was painful. It was sad.
Just so bad.
It was hard to watch. But at
Oh.
least you can kind of say like a lot of it wasn't his fault. Like he can go and put his head on the pillow at night and know like I did everything I could. Everybody else is the problem, not me. The anti Taylor Swift song. But yeah, I feel like I can sleep better knowing that it was like someone else's fault and not mine. When I feel like it's my fault, I'm
True.
like this is the worst. So
Very true.
Well, we're gonna have to call this one. We have a podcast recording to get to.
yeah, thanks,
Uh,
Greece.
Yes.
We love ya.
I'm not sure if I'm going to say this right. Timur Saeed says that he's a newer watcher of F1. So can someone explain Nico Hulkenberg's penalty that he got? After watching qualifiers, I saw that he crossed the final sector of his lap before the red flag. if you join the stream, we just got done talking about that. So when we end here, it should upload as a recording and you should be able to watch it back. But we do kind of cover that. But thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll have a new episode dropping on Wednesday.
We love ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.